What does the Georgia Senate election mean for the housing market? I'll explain everything next on Tom's Take. You're definitely going to want to watch this one. Major political news last week with the Georgia Senate election results. For the first time in 56 years, control of the Senate is flipping from Republican to Democrat. And what this means is that President Biden, when he gets sworn in a couple weeks, is going to have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate to work with him on his agenda. So in theory, this means everything's going to get passed a lot easier and he's going to have a much easier road to enact legislation that he wants to get done. Here's what I know. There's one key factor here I would make everyone hesitate on, not good or bad, just the facts, that it takes 60 votes to stop a filibuster in the Senate. What that means is if you don't know what a filibuster is, you can literally get down on the Senate floor and just start talking about nonsense. I've seen people read like the phone book and do all sorts of crazy things, which sounds like typical political maneuvering to me. So they need 60 votes to stop a filibuster, which means there's going to have to be some sort of Republican support to get things pushed through. That's number one. So it's not going to be this like rubber stamp, whatever the president puts out there, whatever the House puts out there, it's going to go through. That's not going to happen. What we also know is that this is about housing. So obviously that election had a lot of ramifications politically, a lot of things going on in the world. Very sensitive to that. I'm talking about the housing market specifically. That's the intention of the show. And there's really three things I see that can come out of this. One is the $2,000 stimulus checks from the Cash Act are more likely to get approved. The previous Senate Majority Leader, he's gone. He's out because there's no more Republican majority, and he was going to block that from getting to the floor at the Senate. That's not going to be the case. It's going to be a little easier because now there's a Democratic Senate Majority Leader. So that's probably likely to get passed. I don't know that $2,000 for homeowners with income limitations is going to make a big difference in the housing market. It's going to certainly help a lot of people. I don't see that really changing the market too much, but that's a likely outcome from this. Regarding housing and looking at the Biden platform when he ran, he was talking about a couple things. One in particular was a $15,000 home buyer tax credit for first-time buyers. This is only for first-time buyers. Clear to me that's a page right out of the Obama playbook where he was the vice president. And in theory, that sounds great. $15,000 tax credit, like I'm interested in that. I wouldn't qualify, but for first-time home buyers, they would. Here's what I see being a challenge there. We don't need more demand right now. We're going through an inventory crisis, so we don't need more buyer demand. We need more listings, and there's no way to prompt that. What I do see here, it's going to make it more affordable for some buyers to jump into an ownership position, which will be great. It's certainly going to help some people buy a home when maybe they couldn't afford to before, or it's going to make it easier financially for them to get in and know they can furnish the property, do the projects they want, save a little bit of money. So I totally get that. The thing is, buyer affordability is at an all-time high. So, short of helping people maybe qualify for a little more and making that extra jump in a bidding war or in a multiple offer situation, I don't see a $15,000 tax credit really helping. What I know coming from the Georgia election is it's probably going to be easier for the president to get that passed. Now, remember, in 2008, 2009, when that first-time buyer tax credit was out there, it was $8,000. That was a time when buyer demand was low. So it's a very different climate. So I'm not sure this is the right policy at the right time. Secondly, and what I really see coming out of this from the housing market perspective, because we talked about the Cash Act checks, we talked about the $15,000 buyer stimulus for first-time home buyers. The third thing I see happening here, and this is probably the most likely, is the first thing that they're going to do when they get into office is start to roll back all the things that President Trump passed, right? Specifically with the new Trump tax code, there was a couple things that affected housing almost right away. One was the reduction from $1 million to a $750,000 loan amount on mortgage interest deductions on your tax return. So when people are buying more expensive homes, they don't have the same tax deduction. It went from $1 million was the limit before the new tax code was passed. Now it's down to $750,000. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets rolled back. Additionally, there's a limit on property tax write-offs. So some of the tax incentives that were kind of taken away may come back under Biden. That would be my biggest observation, is that these things change, because that was big news when the tax code changed. That was very controversial, and I remember being in negotiations, and all of a sudden the high-end market shifted a little bit because they didn't have the same tax incentives that they did a couple days ago before the tax changes got passed. So what I would anticipate seeing here is that the new president starts to roll back all the stuff the old president passed. I mean, that's what politics is all about, right? Overall, I don't see this materially changing anything that's happening in housing. The thing to watch is what's monetary policy going to look like in the second half of the year. The biggest impact that Washington can have on the real estate market is going to be adjusting rates. Because right now rates are so low, demand is red hot. That may change as we get into the spring, the summer, the fall, where mortgage rates are projected to go up and the Fed may start raising rates. That's the thing to keep your eye on more than anything else. So I don't see much change. I think there's a couple things that might be addressed originally. Keep an eye on monetary policy. That's really what I see as the biggest impact from the Georgia election. You guys got any questions, you know where to reach me. Send me a DM, ping me on social. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with more info and more content. You're definitely going to want to watch this one.